Welcome everybody to our Summer Sundays broadcast. We're going to be broadcasting each week the familiar elements of worship and word and an opportunity to reflect on something and take it into the week. We're trying to give those that have worked so hard with our online content over the last few months a well-deserved break. But we trust that these familiar elements will help us as we journey through these summer weeks. Maybe that you've joined with another household to watch and share in this together, or you've gathered up to 6 people in your garden or in a local park. We'd encourage you week by week to think about who you might share this moment with. And if you're watching it live at 10:45, then we would encourage you at the end of this broadcast to jump on the Zoom link to connect with others that have been watching it so that together we might share in conversation and continue the journey. We'll post that link again at the end. So at the end of the broadcast, there'll be an opportunity for everyone to share together on a Zoom call.
Constant great to have you with me today, Sarah. I know that you've been thinking a lot about being a light in your neighbourhood and how you as a family are shining the light of God into your streets and into the area that you live. Right at the beginning of all of this, we started that project encouraging people to connect with those who were around each other, perhaps through WhatsApp or other groups, and serve one another through this time. And it's been amazing to see what's been happening in your area. So why don't you share a little bit about how that's worked out and what kind of stories have come back from that time?
Yeah. So we quite early on, in fact very early on, I put little notes for everyone's door in our cul-de-sac, inviting people to be part of a WhatsApp group that we called Nice Neighbourhood. I don't know why. And that got everyone in our little area involved in WhatsApp, and that's been really, really inspiring, brilliant through the whole COVID journey. So we've got a couple at the end of our road, both of whom are in remission from cancer. So we've been able to enable them to isolate. So we've been shopping for them, getting their prescriptions for them, that sort of thing, generally keeping them sane. We've had a couple of impromptu parties, all socially distanced. We've got one lad who turned 21 during Corona, and one lad who turned 18 in different households. So we dropped off neighbourhood presents to them. We all sang outside happy birthday and just generally embarrassed them. It wasn't the trip to Vegas that the 21-year-old had but it was something.
Amazing.
It was quite nice. And we've been sharing books and magazines and food amongst the neighbourhood in a way that we just never had done before. Amazing. And which just makes sense. And praying for each other. People have been putting prayer requests and things on our WhatsApp group. So that's been really lovely. And one really good example, on Easter Sunday morning, we did church in a way that we've never done before, because we stood outside our house and all our neighbours, and we sang Amazing Grace. Mark brought out a speaker, so we sang along to other people. It wasn't led by me, few. But we sang Amazing Grace as a road, and that was amazing. That was just a really lovely moment. When I look back, I think that was what we're talking about, really. That was the idea. So we did that, and then more recently I put a request on there asking people to add a little bit into their food shop for Feet for the Street. I explained that we're ramping that back up and we need to restock our cupboards and all of that sort of thing. And one lady who lives a couple of doors down from us, she works at Barclays Bank. So she read out my message aloud. I think she must have been on her lunch break. And Barclays Bank have been giving their workers £5 lunch allowance during Corona, as an incentive to go in and keep working, I think. So she read the message out loud, and 20 people from Barclays Bank said, I'll give up my £5 lunch allowance today into a pot. So 20 people, £5 lunch allowance, £100. My neighbour went and brought £100 worth of food, asked me what to get, and dropped it off on my doorstep yesterday. 6 bags for life full of tins and cereal, and it was amazing.
Utterly amazing. Makes me want to cry. It's so exciting.
Blew my mind. I was like,
utterly amazing.
Wow. Yeah. So yeah, we've had a really, really good time, I think, as a road. We've grown closer than we ever were, and we know a lot more about each other than just what cars we drive and how many kids we've got. We know each other now, and that's been brilliant.
Amazing. So one of the things we've just been reflecting on is that, every Christian's a leader, every house is a house church, and every road is a parish. And it seems like that's been the reality for you. And do you think you would have been able to achieve this without the last few months of Corona?
No, because it wouldn't have occurred to me to try, I think. And I think that's probably the key message is church is where you decide to put church. So we weren't going to church, so we made church where we were, and the community and the family that we've got now, from celebrating birthdays and celebrating other answers to prayer and things, has been really awesome. So So I think it would have been a sadder time if I hadn't tried to do it.
Absolutely. That is so helpful, Sarah. Thank you so much. It's an encouragement to all of us to see where God has rooted and planted each of us. But also, I guess there's with that sense of saying yes to God. This is something we actively have to say yes to and be brave in and courageous in. So thank you so much for that encouragement. It's really great.
No problem. Bye.
Bye. So we're coming to the end of our summer series on finding treasures in dark places. We've been thinking together about the treasures that we have found through the last 6 months where COVID has been rife and many of us have been in lockdown. We're coming to our final session, and today we're thinking about the church and the church being more open and alive than perhaps we have been for many years. One of the questions many of us have been thinking and processing is, what really is the church? And I know in the early morning prayer meetings at 6 a.m. with IIC, we've been travelling together through the book of Acts. It feels so timely to go to that place, because the early church once again inspire us about how they structured themselves without many of the things that we would consider necessary with our understanding of church. Let's hear together Acts chapter 2, verse 42 following. It's so familiar, but let's try and tune in to what God has for us today. The fellowship of the believers. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possessions and goods, they gave to anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with a glad and sincere heart, praising God and enjoying the favour of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. Obviously, we can't wait until we're all back together worshipping. I can't wait for the buzz of arriving on a Sunday, for the joy of all being together and listening to God. Celebration is one of our key values at Burlington, and doing that together is so important. I know we've all really missed being together in this way. But I do not believe that the church is closed. In fact, I've observed the Church of God being more open, more alive and awake than I have ever before. Matt Bird, who heads up the Cinnamon Network, wrote this: "My own sense of what has happened in lockdown is that every follower of Jesus is a leader. Every house is a house church, and every street is a parish." The church is not closed. Burlington is more alive and more open than ever. As we saw from the community leaders last week, our community life together has adapted and mostly thrived through this season. One of the many things many of us wouldn't be aware of is that I've been running a time for mums with small children. We're so blessed with a number of families in our church. And as you can imagine, lockdown with a toddler has proved quite challenging for some. So we started meeting together on Zoom for an hour a week. All the small people get on and wave and throw things at the screen. It's pretty carnage, to be honest, but it's wonderful. Together, we've navigated the challenges of lockdown as parents. All of us have cried at one point or another. We've laughed a lot and we've prayed together a lot. We've prayed for each other, we've prayed for our kids. I believe the New Testament would call what we've been doing on that Zoom call once a week church. Every time we meet together, God is with us. We've been engaging on a Sunday in our live stream
with so many more people than we would welcome in our church buildings on a Sunday. If you have been joining us on a Sunday and never come into our buildings, I'm absolutely thrilled that you've been joining us. And I really hope that we get to meet you face to face at some time. Please do get in touch and we can arrange a virtual coffee or even now a socially distanced coffee and get to know each other and help you explore who God is and what Burlington family is about. But over this time, I think we've learnt a lot about the church, and I've just got a few points that perhaps will help us to think about how we move from where we are now into the next season, because these things that we've learnt, these treasures we've learnt about the church, will also be treasures that we will see into the coming days. Firstly, I believe that God's message of hope and love is so relevant today. People have Googled prayer more in the last 3 months than ever, apparently. People are looking for hope and love, and we believe that God is a God of hope and a God of love. He is a God who is at work and a God who is with us. That message is something that we as Christians and at Burlington are standing firm in. And that is our testimony, one of the treasures we have found through this time. So the church, the Christian church, is a place of hope and love, and that's relevant for us today. On my Sunday school wall when I was younger, there was a poster that said, "The church is the people, not the buildings." It felt ironic that that was on the wall of the buildings in so many ways. But I think that's been so true as we look back over the last few months. Matt Bird's quote reminds us that every Christian is a leader and every house is a house church. Every Christian is a leader and every house is a house church. God's church is open and active all over Ipswich because of you, because you're placed there, because God has put you there and He's called you to lead in that area. And that leads me to my next point, that actually we started right at the beginning of lockdown that initiative called Light in Our Streets, Shine Your Light. And we encouraged everybody to try and connect their road or their little neighbourhood together, perhaps via a WhatsApp group or whatever way they could, so that we could be light in our streets. Sarah's going to share right now just some testimony about what has happened over this time in her road, which I think will encourage all of us. So God's message of hope and love is relevant today. The church is the people, not the buildings. We are called to be light in our streets. But the way we love each other also speaks clearly into our world. A number of my friends have commented about how I often mention someone at church almost like a brother or sister, and I believe that's so true. We are brothers and sisters in Christ. The way that we love one another, especially through dark times, is being seen by those who don't believe as something interesting, something exciting, something that they would love something more of. We are brothers and sisters in Christ. Our love together speaks loudly of the God of love that we worship. But my final point about the church, I guess, comes out of that song that has been used so many times through lockdown, The Blessing. It's been viewed millions of times on YouTube, been made in so many different languages by so many people, that speaks of God's blessing over places and people and families and generations. We are called as God's church to be a blessing in Ipswich, in your road, in your family, in this world. God has given us so much. We have so many treasures in us, not physical ones, but deep ones that God's been homing and developing in us through this time. And He says, go be a blessing. We need to give away what we have received in whatever way we can. So as we come towards September, none of these treasures change. However we end up being allowed to meet together into the next season, we will still be a community of hope and love. We will still shine God's light in our streets. We will still love one another as family. And we will still worship God, for he is good all the time.
Thank you so much for joining us for our Summer Sundays broadcast. Everything that you need, ideas to take things further, will be at burlington.church/secret treasures. Why not jump on that webpage now and click the link right away to join with others to continue the conversation. burlington.church/join the conversation. There'll be others there right now ready to meet you and continue the journey. God bless you this week.
Who can do more than we can ask or imagine?